Welcome back to my lovely HP community and the 5D collective. As our lovely 1111 portal continues, let's go forth with our conversation a little bit. So we're going to have some channeled guidance messages, but before we head on into that, we discussed being yourself and disengaging from tainted judgments, not only your own, but also those of others, and those biased, unhealed, trauma projecting people. So when you're being yourself mindfully and you're identifying tainted judgment and or judgments and biases, is not for you to approach it as an empowered person. It will be something you understand as unresolved trauma, and unhealed trust breaks get tended to by the individual if they want to. They don't have to. Okay, so we are able to be a heart, body, mind that is empowered because it's a safe haven, secure base for me to be Maria. I have my inner child adult. That's it. I don't have any shit hiding beneath the surface. When I'm meeting that, I know how to interact with it. And it's called, thanks God, humble. Thanks Jesus, forgive. Thanks Dr. Daniel Siegel for explaining it to me with the integration of the brain capacity to share with others why using your prefrontal. Thanks Robert Sapolsky with determined, and Peter Levine, and a bunch more of names. So once you understand a restorative embodiment, self-aware, accountable, regulating person with an integrated brain is the person who has access to their spiritual process. Why? Because true spirituality is a life of meaning and connection beyond the solo self. You don't own your solo self if you don't own your relational, narrative, or core self. You don't own any of those if you do not know how to observe, witness, narrate that which is going on in your emotional, mental, and physical plane in 1 minute instead of projecting it at me in this regulation. So self-empowered individuals, our healthy self-worth will be noticed by those who are pachas like us. Cuscos don't notice because Cuscos are busy in what an adaptive child pattern of behavior will be, and or maladaptive. So they're dysregulated, and their unhealthy self-soothing mechanisms come into the picture, like when Cusco is calling Pacha stupid in the Emperor's New Groove, as Pacha saying, you don't look like Cusco, and it's like, what? And so he says, do this, and that's the time where in the cartoon Cusco notices. But in real life, when we have people who are projecting their unhealed trauma and their trust breaks, believe me, they don't notice. If I had a jar for every time I've dealt with a Cusco, I think I'd be a millionaire by now. So, with that being said, the 5D frequency, it's Christ consciousness. Thank you, Jesus, for teaching me about love and God. And then we also can expand to being mystics here. We are not welcomed by all of the Holy Spirit, but we know what the Holy Spirit is, and it's true love, and it's true compassion, it's true, a lot of words, you can use all the words, it's a sound, it's a frequency, it's consciousness. Okay, so if you're getting picky with words, that tells me that you're an ego in town, because that's when, excuse me, you're confused in science and spirituality. When I got ego in town, I got an adaptive child who wants to prove their point. I'm not trying to prove a point, I'm sharing food for thought, and in this case, it's also messages. So when somebody is talking over another person, that's called thoughts that are your own. If you're not liking, that's called your stuff. Now, if you're grown up and you know Dharma, then you know I don't need to like or not like. It's called implicit explicit bias. I keep it aside, I charge it. Why? Because I'm in a room sharing with another person. I'm a differentiated self. So empowered people, we don't want to have to be the same. We can have thoughts and feelings and explain and talk and do everything differently from one another, and in a room we're going to have a good time. I love to love, and my baby, he loves to laugh, and he loves to live, and he loves to love, and he loves to learn, and he loves to not cast stones and do characterological distinctions or judgments. So anyone, they can have made the biggest mistake in the world, 8 billion and growing, we will not cast a stone. We will not be reactive, because we are equanimous, and that is when you will know self-empowerment. The magic of truth is in the compassionate you, because that's when you're going to have true integrity. Otherwise, pretendos like to use their words, but they don't know integrity at all. If they did, then they would stop trying to shame, blame, fault, revenge people, and be basically people who are dysregulated in their nervous system. They would want to be functional adults because they would feel, I feel good, na 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 na. I knew that I would now, na 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 na. I feel good. Dun-dun-dun. And that's the sound that we navigate the 5D mystics and mindfully aware people who are empowered. The social construction of reality, a treatise in the sociology of knowledge. So we could read that. When you read something like this and you're empowered, you're like, okay, so all these people that think their thoughts and emotions are irrefutable facts and they're doing the in and out group, wow, they really need to read this. But it's a very important read, so not everybody will be happy about it. Luckily for us, we're connected, and through the web, we get to share. So some of us know how to use our ventral vagal state. Raise your hand. Some of us are authentic selves and radically accept. Raise your hand. Okay, so if you do that too, great. So you know that there's not perfection, it's progress. And learning how to be a healthy self-worth person is something you enjoy. So what other people say about you doesn't matter, but you are not ashamed of what you have done. And if you were ashamed, then you have learned how to get out of maladaptive patterns of behavior and adaptive patterns of behavior, because that's the only time you're going to have stuff that is of shame, because that would be the moments where you were cut from spiritual process that you are, because you will have done something, envy, jealousy, spite, revenge, shame, blame, fault, in ways of creating a situation. Or let's say something happened and you were not able to stop it. Okay, this is the part of where compassion is the land of the truth, because you are imperfect and flawed, so am I. Doesn't mean you need to shame yourself. The people who want to keep shaming each other, they are not in the 5D frequency. They're navigating not empowerment land. They think they're empowered because they're reactive. We know they're not, because they're reactive. Okay, so here's what we know about those who are here today. There are many paths to enlightenment, and some of us choose love. By choosing yourself, you've chosen love. By choosing that you are not a person who has the answers to everything. No, you've never walked in another person's shoes. But you also don't have to silence yourself and be a person who doesn't speak up. So you learn how to speak with equanimity, with non-reactivity, thanks to mindfulness practices, mindset practices, this inner growth mindset we talk about, and dealing with unknowns, uncertainties, and unexpecteds with an open heart, while going with the flow. The flow state is really fun. Okay, so remember, you can't heal trauma with the wrong people. Healthy self-worth people, we hang out. We leave the low self-esteem people. They are reactive, and their spiritual narcolepsy, they might think that they are actually completely true spirituality all over the place. Even the Holy Spirit people, they think that they are, when they're bringing out a monstrous God and a monstrous, there's a lot of monsters out there. I feel bad for the ones who actually believe in these people, as if they are speaking from faith. They don't know faith. If they did, they'd know, 1, God always wins. 2, you're playing God right now. And 3, you're from the past. And I think you need to get the sciences checked, because it's all pointing to healing and helping people to be in their healed, restorative embodiment. So if your first 3 years of life, they don't go very well, that's why there's unkind business. And when you find smart people, good therapists, Patrick Tihan, healed, healing, childhood trauma survivor, as he says, his biggest regret, his childhood made him unkind. He's still working to recalibrate and move into his kindness, which he knows was his supposed to be origin. He wasn't meant to be unkind. No child is meant to be in an unsafe environment. So let's support, as Dr. Daniel Siegel points out, our planet to become a securely attached planet. That's with the earned secure attachment people. Science and spirituality come together. Share with me what Jesus already shared. Forgive, they don't know. Yes, when you meet Cusco, what was it, Dr. Daniel Fox? They got some fucking, mustard on their chin? So when you meet projection, you catch it, and you allow yourself to make a baby out of it, and no, you just leave it alone. Candlelight illuminates damage beneath the feet with wave of light. So you remember that you didn't ever walk one day in their feet. And then with determined, you remember he shares that they don't have free will. We know what their free will is. It's not going to be by you attacking them, because the minute that you are in a defense pose, now we got 2 children moving into the equation. Oh, let me see, Cusco, what do we got? What do we got? We got Cusco 1, Cusco 2. Are you a blamer, martyr, superior? Which codependent type are you? Are you the Elsa Journey people? Are you Pinocchio on the island? Or wait a minute, what was that? Enmeshing, non-differentiation, Diego's family. Anytime somebody's reactive in a room, they think they're teaching each other a lesson. They're not teaching each other anything. It's just like seeing 2 roosters play roosters. Okay, when you meet true leadership, you'll meet empowerment, you're going to meet what is a ventral vagal stance and an individual, man, woman, they be, who will know exactly how to make space in a room and how to also mind their own business if they must. So with self-empowerment comes love. And when people say, you hold power, I've seen the teenagers with this, you hold the power through your words. You don't, words, they don't mean as much as what you're vibing. If you have one little speck of low self-esteem, one disowned part, one fragment of you that you haven't welcomed back, and you meet somebody and they're empowered, it might be triggering you. You don't even know why, because the first 3 years of your life are implicit memory. I've met a bountiful of individuals who lack self-awareness, lacking the desire to go to therapists. These are mantles of mental health and mantles of spirituality, spiritual bypassers. So they will talk about all the technical verbiage like I'm talking to you right now, as I'm also sharing with you messages from our Love and Love portal. The difference is I walk a walk and talk a talk, but I can't prove it, and I know that. What can't I prove? Oh, my open-heartedness, like the fact that I can do spirituality, mindfulness, all of this from my integrated brain. Now, this word spirituality sounds odd, right? I use it because it incorporates all of us, and because it's a life of meaning and connection beyond the soul self. And so it's for the ones of us who are mystics, because we're not sciences. We're mystics first. I come with Jesus and God first. I then got clairs, and with clairs I knew I wouldn't be welcomed by all because of the ignorant human beings who wear cloaks and want me to trust. I don't trust in you. I trust in what I trust. I have a direct relationship. The only God, the only one that I need to say, hey, they're playing you right now, and I see they keep blaming Lucifer for a lot of things, but I see suffering and no Lucifer. Lo and behold, in the year 2024, I had found out, a couple of years back, Patrick McNamara, thank you for your research. You are very beautiful for sharing with us. So when someone has demons in their head, it's called family in the head. It's called an inner critic, outer critic. It's called therapy time, so that you can get out of having shame, blame, fault, split thinking, black and white thinking, things that don't help you live a good life from here. There's no need for you to do suffering unless you want to be able to project. So the words don't mean as much as people think they do, except for the rigid thinkers who are unforgiving and harsh, and that's because their brain doesn't conceptualize the depth of their emotional plane yet. When thoughts are soft, emotions are soft, now we're talking. This is 5D frequency, and forgiveness is always on. So love, we can process the emotions that come up. So again, you have the capacity to know that we are big, 8 billion and growing web of people, that some of us know ventral vagal state. That would be you if you're resonating, and you know that integrity is not about shaming, blaming, faulting, or revenging people, or being in your survival mode. We don't need that unless we're one with nature, out in the open and with a bear. And yeah, that's why I'll choose the man, and I'll choose compassion and bring the truth in my home. That will be, hey Eric, I have a tail, it's fishy, you don't like it. If you pretend, I'll notice it, and then I'll just leave you alone, and you won't notice anything, because again, lack of self-awareness is what those who pretend to be their self. Adaptive child patterns, they're all looking out to find the Peter Pan that will give them the world and the parents and the reality they would have wanted, and really it's all of their charges, which is why it's unfortunate business, because it's all bitter. It's not sweet. It's full of vengeance, envy, shaming. They just want to keep doing. So 3D, 4D frequency is not going to do any big deal or bad deal. They think that there's a lot of ways the ego continues to blind people. It's not about ego going away. It's that they're blinded by their blind spots of not noticing that every time their mouth is opening, I know what emotions you feel. So if you don't feel love, life, the miracle, you don't feel blessed, you don't feel bliss, if you don't feel these, you're not yet in the 5D frequency. You don't have to be. But to be here, that means that you do love yourself first, and you're always on. And when somebody says you're disgusting to me, whether it's with their facial features or their child, you don't give a shit. Oh, not because your heart's closed. This is a part. No, my heart's open, and I have the capacity to have self-empowerment and self-worth of Maria with the defect. The person thinks it's a defect. I don't. Person thinks I'm gross or imperfect. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. In my heart, I'm not that. So the minute their heart is in because I'm self-empowered, I'm 44, remember, so it took me getting rejected at 4. I got disowned at 8. I got dumped at certain amounts of time. I got to stub my toe. I found the one, and then I found the ones, and then I found, nope, you're not the ones at all. And now I'm having a good time. And there you go. And so you look to the past and say, I'm feeling good. No, 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 no. I knew that I would now. And when people say you're fake, you know what you got in front of you. You leave it alone because seriously. So I'm going to give you a story. I remember Gary Vee. I don't follow Gary Vaynerchuk very much, but he's on LinkedIn, and every now and then I'll spot him at times. And so he's being interviewed, and some dude out of nowhere comes in and say, "You got lucky." Now, see, Gary Vee, he gave him the time of day. I wouldn't have. I'd be like, "Yeah, sure, I got lucky." Instead, he's turning to him. He's like, "No, I didn't get lucky. It was hard work. No, you got lucky." And so the guy kept on insisting. And Gary Vee kept on giving him time of the day. Again, I personally don't find giving Cusco's any time of my day is actually part of the empowered person here. It's more of, oh shit, so am I not decent enough to be saluted? That human being, I mean, really, he gave me a chuckle, and then he gave me a story. Oh, and when I have other stories, I don't share all of them, but we can use my facade friend. He taught me how to handle clowns, which is basically leave it alone. And then the attachment trauma information people let me know again. Abandonment, humiliation, injustice, shame, and what else was it? Blame. Anyways, any of those wounds that are not healable, what happens is you get facades as friends, not true people. So for me, true people are the empowered ones who are going to stick around, and you know how to be your imperfect self, and you don't actually pretend to love people. You love them for real because you understand that we didn't walk in anybody's shoes. So see, if there's one thing I don't do, because I learned, but when I was a teenager, again, I was saying bad and good with intent, and I said, so sorry, casting stone, I won't do it again. I'm not afraid of hell, I just don't feel right doing it, because candlelight illuminates damage beneath the feet with wave of lights. So I've never walked one day in your shoe, which is why I chose kindness and open-heartedness, because I've said, yeah, ego, you're here, but you don't know everything about them. And so I treated people, and still do, the way I would want to be treated, which is with complete honesty and respect. If you have a charge and you allow your charge to taint your own opinion, I'm going to notice, which is going to make you a liar to me, because now I got a 14-month-old in the room, which is called the karma wheel and a lot more. And so again, 4D, 3D frequency is very clear to us. They're called Cuscos. Pachas is when you can love people and know that, people, they don't know Robert Sapolsky's determined. So their first 3 years of life, found it hard to believe. You leave it alone. We're going to have Cuscos, and then we're going to have Pachas. Come on over, Pachas. This is our lovely middle of the world. So you have learned how to be your luminous warrior with a straight arrow that can be a witness of your solo self, your narrative, your core, your relational. And so by being that witness of your own heart, it's not sacrifice. You've made it sacred. You've went through that transformation, and you know that same truth that the crow gives us, which is why we're of a different kind. Those of us who are spirituality and sciences bringing it together. When you see a shaman telling you not to go to therapy, that's not a good shaman. When you see a therapist who doesn't embrace mysticism, meaning that, of course, they would tell you, look, there's things you want to watch out for, but not make us out to be some awful groups of people. Also, mindfulness practices, anybody who's diminishing them. Okay, so whenever someone's dismantling something versus empowering you with information, that's what you want to look for. That's why that Zen master, he says laundry versus just saying, watch for what you are hearing. But then again, he falls within the Cusco attitude, because again, he has laundry. He wants to though use the word Zen, and he doesn't know how to use his prefrontal cortex, so he's not building resiliency. He doesn't use focused attention and awareness. Oh, look, I have emotions. Shh, be quiet, ego. We don't need to judge human beings. We're in our secondary consciousness. Something happened. We don't like it. Let me process it. I don't need to use my temporal junction relating to the past. I'm in a physiological state of compassion. My truth is only going to come forth when I have integrity. The integrity comes forth when I have compassion and when I'm in my ventral vagal state, not when I'm in a little angry squirrel or Cusco, inner critic, outer critic. No. Inner growth. What can I learn from this? Where's my self-awareness, accountability, regulate? Okay, now when we can feel our body as the container, then the emotions and the sensations do not feel as overwhelming. They're being contained. Peter Levine. Great. Awesome. Now what? Well, once that happens, I'm going to notice, here's where Russell Colt's PhD, being terrified that a rupture means the end of a relationship, sets you up from the very beginning to have a relationship that isn't genuine, that isn't real, that doesn't involve being able to just be yourself. So when people pretend to be their self, a person who's just being their self will notice, because you can't hide how to map the body. Peter Levine. So Peter Levine informs us, where is trauma stored? Muscles, bones, tissues. It comes up. Don't go back down. It'll keep coming up. As long as yes, it can be locked in. The dark sides of neuroplasticity means that you lock yourself in shut, and we don't want to talk about that. That's a mask. We want to talk about the ones who are true to their self. So they find the awe, and you found the awe, and the thunder of your inner child, and the magic that life is, and the miracle that it is, mystic or not. And that's why you can see clearly now the rain has gone. Like an owl and that holy mountain, you're able to use all of that which was your journey to get here home to your true self, to the emotional plane. And so you don't want to bring forth your emotions as projection. You don't want to participate in biased conversations. You also don't want to silence people because they used a different word than you, did politics different, whatever it is. You're not an immature human being. There's a lot of people out there immature. They think they know shit. Believe me, again, I won't share all the stories because really I feel embarrassed for individuals at times, because of the way that they will, like this fancy woman who thinks to tell you to stop regulating your emotions is a good thing. It's not. It's not a good thing. It's learn how to regulate your emotions and learn how to be a functional adult. Terry Real, he's great. Patrick Tiahan, great. They're both therapists. They teach you to learn to love yourself first. Go to them. If you don't know how to love yourself yet, it's confusing. I already know how to love myself. So 5D Mystic here for the ones who do spirituality and mindfulness, or want to, with self-help. So time, you're a master of your own time, and you're a master of your own emotions. And like the hummingbird, you go the distance. The body, sensations, those that originally from the body, such as muscle tension or relaxation. First 3 years of life, all implicit. Until you make sense of your core narrative relational solo self, you're not creating integration. No shit that comes up, you don't even know why the fuck you're feeling disgusted. Then you got 3 to 7 shame submissive. They will have explicit memory. Now we begin to have things that can come up. So I can say a word, it will make you think of a person or a thing. Images, those that originally come from the outside and are stored in the person's brain and the body. Like when I was being in a caring connection conversation, and from one word to the next, I say a word, they get reactive because they've got a abandonment, wound, rupture, big one. They say a word, and their word triggers not only emotions but also images that I know how to regulate, thanks panic attacks, but also because I do Maria with my inner growth mindset since I was a teenager. I've known mindfulness. So the beauty way, you know how not to enter into spiral because you don't go offline. That's the power of self-empowered, mindfully, spiritually aware, enlightened individuals, mystics and not. We are called restorative embodiment, self-aware people. So we know that when life sends us the coyote, a detour, it's not a big deal. I mean, really, is it a detour? It's going to allow me to continue to become more of that shaman. So when you're your mystical shaman, you don't have to use that word. Again, you allow the past, the ghosts of your past, they don't haunt you. The ancient ones, your ancestors, they don't haunt you. You have learned how to allow that path to enlighten you. And so loss, pain, bliss, delight, the 4 paths from this card. You're not overwhelmed, so you don't do spiritual narcolepsy, and it's not Lucifer, it's just people. When you're not your spiritual process, it's because you're not using the left, the verbal part of your brain, and the right, and all that is from within you. Behaviors, those that a person can observe and that you can also observe if you become aware of your body sensations. Affects, primary emotions and contours of the feeling, meaning the thoughts and beliefs of the person. Peter Levine, PhD. Again, you can find that one on nicbm.com. So what I also want to share, as our lovely Sadhguru gave us part of today's beginning of the message, do not judge someone's spiritual process by their behavior. Maladaptive behavior / child, adaptive child pattern behavior, these are Cuscos. They can use therapists. Some have addictions, drugs, sex, fucking, whatever the bullshit they're doing. They got fancy human beings in suit, one extreme to the other extreme. Any extremist is not an intelligent human being. That's a split thinking. Intelligent, mystic, and or human being will know how to tell you, you own your 3-year-old, observe, witness, narrate. If you don't, go and get it online. You'll find empowerment, pleasing, appeasing. No, it'll be pleasing to you. It won't be appeasing to others. In fact, you might not be liked by others because you will be an unbreakable Christ consciousness. It's about not being with gloves. Unbreakable means no matter how many times you may tell me I'm disgusting to you, Eric, I won't give a shit because I wasn't made by you. God made me the way he wanted me to be made, and actually there's no reason for you to be doing any of what the projection you're doing, not even a little bit, because we have different lifestyles. We have different ways of wanting to say yes, no, wanting to love, not wanting to love. So the actuality is most people project likes and dislikes on each other without ever realizing that they never walked one day in your foot. How dare you think that it's okay to feel disgust towards another person's in the very way of applying it as an irrefutable fact. We all feel feelings, and then it depends where you're at with your journey. And most people, again, they're Cusco, so it's only if you care to live a life of meaning and connection beyond the soul self that you'll be able to say, I do care that my emotions don't taint my own opinion about you. That's the respect that you give when you accept that you're different from another without shame, without blame, without fault, without revenge, without wanting somebody to say, oh, I love you so much, you're awesome the way you are. Anybody watch Grease? Yeah. The minute I saw it, I'm like, what? No. Yeah, there's a door. I don't do change. Not at all. This is who I am. So the feminine of you is a jaguar. She brings certainty and courage in times of fear, and she never becomes prey. And that's where, thanks God, thanks Jesus, why don't we become prey? Ventral vagal state. It's your social engagement system. Lady really doesn't know you can't have no emotions. So when somebody like her speaks words like that, makes me think of teenagers who said to me, why are you so cold? You don't have emotions, Maria. I do. I'm just not being dramatic. I mean, one boy broke up with you, you're going to make a big deal. There's 8 billion people out there. I mean, come on. It will get better. You'll meet the right one. Don't worry. Or the right ones. I mean, really, it depends what you are. So that's how wild thing. Na, 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 na. You make my heart sing. So when you're a wild woman or a wild man or a wild day, you ain't gonna look to the past and say, oh, I'm so unfortunate about life and men and people. Nobody's a curse. Humans aren't curses. That's the part of why that Zen master with laundry, he's judging humanity as if they are a curse or they curse. Anytime you have a trust break, oh, humans suck. Watch those shitty movies. Sadhguru. I don't watch as much movies. When I do, it's because I'm doing a social thing. But I don't enjoy watching them per se. I mean, I can use them as funny stories, that's for sure, because a bunch of them basically are shame, blame, fault, revenge, all that shit. And so it's all unhealed trauma, really, and trust breaks. And so it gives me a good way to come to you and say, hey, they're not connected to that upper world. You are. So our 1111 portal, again, no curses. And when people think humans are suck, no, we're ignorant, we're imperfect, we're flawed, yes, but we don't suck. I mean, really. Who sucks? Well, am I not decent enough to be saluted? Yeah, that person they didn't suck. They were just not on my radar. Then they made it into a deal. Otherwise, it would never have become a deal. Why did they make it into a deal? Because they have low self-esteem, not the other way around. I just consistently, contingently communicated in silence. If you can't say something nice, say nothing. I didn't say anything. Turn the other cheek, Maria. Yes, I did. And I went away. Okay, so you get the drift, the funny stories. Okay, so humans are not cursed. Nobody's cursed. Any of that is something that for 3D, 4D frequency, you get to be connected to that upper world, that council, and that poor serpent that got a bad rap. The serpent changes skin, and the Kundalini awakening. So I'm going to say that some of you have empowered yourselves, some potentially with clairs. If so, welcome aboard. Let me know who you are when our membership content is out, if you need any support additional for your feminine journey, because the feminine will tend to be the one who immediately is expanding with clairs. The masculine, also welcome aboard though, because you will also have access to the relational field. You might not call it clairs. It might simply be the hard problem of consciousness, because that's where the masculines come in. not always, but that science is the rational, okay, and the feminine can come in and tends to come from the spiritual, at least from here right now. But the truth is, it's not clear cut, because when I think about it, I got 4D people, they're masculines, and they have clairs. And that's why these words, I shouldn't use it that way. I'm going to use it this way: masculine, left mode; feminine, right mode. All emotions come up. Divine masculine, your mind, when it's integrated, you have full access. Divine feminine, open heart, open body. So you all know we have feminine and masculine energetic imprints. So if we want to use that equation, then we could use a couple of examples. I don't want to, but I'll just share that the feminine is the nurture, the masculine is strategic, right? So the yin yang. So we are complementary. When you have your divine masculine and your divine feminine whole, like I do, it's an inner child adult, and the masculine and the feminine work together. Here's integration of brain. So when you're integrated, restorative, and with mindfulness practices, you get to continue being aware, accountable, and regulating in what is your ventral vagal state. Then you're going to be one whole, and that's when you're going to know how to tell me which one of the two energetic imprints, which one of the two you identify with. I'm a nurturer. I'm a feminine. My masculines, all of them are strategic. They know how to plan, how to be where they need to, rough on the edges, soft on the edges. They know exactly how to do math, if you will. And it's not because of math, but that's the part. So as a feminine, I know how the masculines complement me always, independently from if they're divine, not divine, empowered, not empowered. When I meet feminines who are distorted, they to me are masculines, if you will, but really their energy is like the squirrel from Cusco land. So the feminine distorted energy is one that is like the squirrel in the Emperor's New Groove. They are what would fall within the category of the blamers, from codependence also to martyrs or superiors, and their energetic imprint is kind of like any of those Ursula from The Little Mermaid, evil bitches, evil witches from, Wizard of Oz, the old movies. Now they're gaining more compassion, understanding, and we're allowing ourselves to not do that all or nothing, but I'm trying to give you the energetic imprint of the distorted feminine. So one could even talk about Malevolent, right, from Sleeping Beauty, but we know from her story what took place, which this is exactly why with Robert Sapolsky determined, and anybody who can educate, the empowerment is in the education, and then a person taking themselves to get healed and waiting until they're ready, if they ever want to forgive, because that's when they'll know the open-heartedness that I talked to you about, and anybody else who is here. So it's not a must. In fact, it makes sense to me. If a person was denied their childhood, that they will be full of upset. And as they're healing with their community, though, they will be able to get healed and then move into their innocence. Some of us, we didn't lose it. That's why we didn't break. Christ consciousness, again, thanks Jesus. It wasn't hard for me to maintain this lovely wind on my journey, because the flow state and the heart of the sky stayed in that which is that beloved of you and I, that inner child of mine. Like your inner child is up, subconscious, unconscious. We're going to talk about that. So your lower world and your upper worlds are friends. You soar like an eagle now, and with that lovely heart of the sky, so consciousness or Akash or God or universe, source, you're able to sit in this lodge and use your mind wisely, because of being able to sit silently with what comes up and present it like a functional adult. So your rattle is one that speaks of love, and one that speaks of integrity, and one that speaks of the 5D frequency. And as we conclude, again, we do not judge someone's spiritual process by their behavior. The spiritual process is beyond the ways of body and mind. Thank you, Sadhguru. I'm going to add brain and heart, and the individual, if they don't reclaim their 1-year-old, you're 1 attached panicky, 3 to 7 shame submissive, freeze of all ages, flight 11, 12, fight 14, 15, 16. If they don't reclaim their child parts, uncharge them, and become their higher self, they will not be here with us on a self-empowerment, mindfulness, or spirituality journey. They will be pretending. Yes, they will. And when we spot them, Pachas don't do anything, because we have a 3-year-old who wants to be part of the crew, right? Peter Pan, Lost Boys, who's following the leader. So when somebody wants to be a part of the crew, as long as they respect healthy boundaries, nobody's going to point at them, because the will to heal and the will to be self-aware comes from the person who owns the ego. If they're not becoming aware in that way, again, Cusco and his behavior, when Pacha says, you don't look like the emperor. What are you, stupid? He is aggressive. And in the real world, a Pacha will not do anything except for, okay, because we're not going to walk him through the forest. We're not going to leave him either, but we're not going to force Cusco to see his face when he immediately is throwing in. But then again, it's from experience. I'm sharing with experience. I was a teenager. People said, I don't have an ego. Yeah, you do. Now we're grown-ups. I don't want to do any trauma stuff. I want to stay this way because, people are fucked up. So why should I bother getting to secure attachment? Got that too. So again, it's human love and then human suffering. Zen master, have a good time. So with that being said, remember, please, circumstances in the night. They marry laughing and handsome and mirror an invasion of reflection of trust. My lovely body gave me some messages to share with you. Also remember that what other people say about you doesn't matter, but you should not be ashamed of what you have done. Integrity. Respect people physically, respect them emotionally, respect them mentally. If you don't like them, you don't have to hang out with them. Respect them. If you can't say something nice, say nothing. Learn to be equanimous. You'll find yourself a lot happier. And on that, I want to read to you all Maniac McGee, the excerpt. Because see, the first book that I read from beginning to finish without going to the end. And it's a really good book. Even if you're not a kid anymore, if you've never read it, and you're somebody who cares about human beings, I think you'll appreciate it. He wasn't born with the name Maniac McGee. His real name was Jeffrey Lionel McGee. But when his parents died and his life changed, so did his name. Maniac McGee was a legend. Kids were always talking about how fast he could run, how high he could jump, how no knots would stay knotted once he began to untie it. But the thing Maniac McGee was best known for is what he did for the kids from the black East End and those from the white West End of 2 mills. Maniac McGee was special, and this is his story. Some of the quotes from people: Kirkus, always affecting parable-like story about racism and ignorance. Starred book list, bursts with creativity, enthusiasm, and hope for the future. In short, it's a celebration of life. And then I'm going to read another part that has something that was probably in the book. Maniac, maniac, he's so cool. Maniac, maniac, don't go to school. Runs all night, runs all right. Maniac, maniac, kissed a bull. So it's a really good read, and he brings two sides of a town together, which is what our lovely humanity is at again, which is why time, does it really ever pass? Candlelight illuminates damage beneath the feet with wave of lights that come from the heart of the sky, the love force that made all creation possible. It does not know good or bad. You give it the clear intention that will guide the formlessness to form and manifest the invisible into the world of matter through the cycles of life and day-to-day, evolving self, oneness with flow, heart and mind of you, and the relationships you create and grow. Let's remember a couple of Sadhguru quotes as well, because as always, he's fabulous. Only one who has insight, who sees what others do not, can be a true leader. When you have an integrated brain, restorative embodiment self, when you're aware, accountable, and regulating, and you're not using a 14-month-old, an in or out group, no charge, and you're using equanimity, neutrality, and duality, you're going to be able to lead because you know how to put your biases to the side and also accept humbly that it's not about right or wrong, it's about the bigger picture. So that's where our 5D frequency and state of consciousness collective and mindfully people are at, which is going to come with a good therapist and with spirituality for some of us. Only when you're absolutely devoted to what you do can you produce something significant in the world. To be devoted is not to be attacking other people's character, personas, and da-da-da. When I see mantles of mental health and mantles of spirituality, I turn around because I ain't going to watch, because there's plenty of Cuscos that follow these people. And they praise them, and they praise them in ways that I would not be praising because they're not bringing us together. The science of yoga is not just about health and fitness. It is an ultimate solution for every aspect of human existence. Sadhguru. Again, it's not ultimate, and he is from yoga, so it's okay, meaning it's normal that he has a preference, right? He has, and it's not even a preference, but that's his subject matter expertise. That's what he's bringing. I'm a human. I bring to humanity. I also come with Jesus. So my path to here is because I got clairs all of a sudden, not because I thought I would have them. I didn't actually. I, to this day, find myself in awe at this gift, if you will, even though it's not a gift, it's part of our human makeup, but the opportunity, I'll call it the opportunity to be a mystic and to be here sharing with you the miracle of life and spirituality. But it's something that it's funny. I just never, that's the one thing, when they do the, what would you tell your teenager? I would tell, hey, guess what? You're going to get magical powers. No, for real, not magical powers. You're going to be able to communicate with the angels and God and all of it. It's going to be really fun, Maria. And then know about science and spirituality and bring all these topics and feel like you're really just saying the same things you're saying as a kid. But no, it's not the same, because I have past lives, future lives, soulmates, twin flames. I got a bunch of things going on. The whole existence is a vibration, and so is your thought. If you generate a powerful thought and let it out, it will manifest itself. Sadhguru again. People really don't know how to use their thoughts as long as they are not whole 3-year-old heart. They are in squirrel attitude from Cusco land. That's why the 4D mystics are very clear who they are. They keep using the word Lucifer all over the place. Sadhguru, if you have been put through unpleasant situations in life, you should be sensible enough not to put anyone else in such situations. People want to keep shaming, blaming, faulting, revenging. When you find out that the 4th step to healing trauma, which means a trauma charge, which is why trust breaks can be projected. So if you had a couple of bad experiences with people, and now you're charged with that topic, you're going to project it if you don't process it and allow yourself to forgive. And that means to let it go. And so when people want to shame, blame, fault, revenge, when they have an in-group and an out-group, they decide to stand in a specific emotion with something, you're going to notice them. They're not the enlightened ones. No, they're the ones who are feeling that 7 to 14 charming spot, and they use their brain and mind and body and self and all of it with shame, blame, fault, revenge. They're Cusco, in and of the quote-unquote flesh, Pinocchio on that island. They're all in a safety behavior, which is a facade. And again, 3D, 4D frequency are people who refuse to go and get into their grown-up brain, is how I'm going to call it, the functional adults, like that lady, avoidant. I'm not going to do journaling, mindfulness, or therapy, because why should I? People are fucked up anyways. Well, that's not really the case, but I guess you don't want to continue facing those emotions, which makes sense. Thank you, Robert Sapolsky, because you've been determined with non-secure attachment. So your body's comfortable in that, so you want to avoid the pain that comes up. You want to disengage from it completely, distract yourself, and continue with the unhealthy self-soothing mechanisms that your first 3 years of life were used to, and your first 8. There's your subconscious, so you want to keep on doing it. When people find the Elsa journey mantles to follow each other, they just do this. This is a bunch of mean girls on TV. That's what you're going to find with mantles of any of spirituality or mental health. For the group that is wanting to say they're here to support each other, yes, I'm here to inspire human potential by saying here how to be yourself. And then for those who are serious, here, okay, let's do personal development, let's do mindfulness, let's put into practice. So people who have a narrative like the twin flame thing, they completely took it out of proportion. And now we have some woman who's talking about 4 waves. That made me laugh in my butthole. Then we got some other dude. He popped up out of nowhere, but I already knew about the 144,000. So every so often we got someone popping up for the 4D collective to keep on following these stories, versus the ones who say, okay, yes, we have the relational field again, our problem of consciousness. It's more than just that for those of us who have come with faith, but we don't really have to keep the stories, even though the stories are part of it. And so here's where, like with tarot and oracle cards, they have different energetic imprints. I don't use these ones as often, and I probably won't, but when you are a person who is connected and you channel, you're going to perceive the differences. So that's why the 4D frequency And that 4D state of consciousness and 3D, again, they're people who don't own their first 3 years of life. They're not securely attached. I can tell they live pseudo aliveness. They're like Mean Girls, the squirrel from Cusco land. They have a very sensitive body. That's because they're not grounded completely with integration. And so their brain, like Patrick McNamara explains, we have a fear receptor. It can go wonky as it's trying to heal from trauma. And so when you have nightmare after nightmare and you have things that aren't going effectively well, that's why the good therapists are good. But the same individuals don't want to go because, and that's why it's textbook Peter Levine's example. It's a bird with a broken wing. You offer it to be healed, it will go to the cave where the nasty cat is because that's its safety. So, thought and emotions, not separate entities. The way you think is the way you feel. Thank you, Sadhguru. Whenever somebody is speaking, if they don't speak bliss and delight, I know that there's a level of loss and pain, and I also know that they have 2 opportunities. 1, to notice it and tend to it, but we have a Zen Master's laundry, and that's our human suffering love group. And then we have the ones who say, yep, okay, I want to tend to it. Why? Because I can and I want to. And then there are those who will do therapy and then they'll say, I want to do personal development, I want like now. So once again, the choice is the teenage version, which is what really we're seeing as a popularity of the algorithm picking up more on what are all or nothing, which means split thinking, by the way. So the 14-month-old of people rule them, and that's why some people say people need silverbacks. I beg to differ. And that's why we'll conclude with be yourself. Take off the mask, radically accept. It's easy with your ventral vagal state when you have welcomed all of you. So you have no shame button. So even if I said you're disgusting to me here, won't feel too upset. Of course, humanly speaking, if you and I know each other, if you're mature, and we're family, but you're mature, completely, you'll be sad, very little. You'll be over it because you'll know it's not personal. Whatever disgust, whatever this is, it's not me. Something's up. They have an opinion, it's called. An opinion with a charged emotion. They had some shit go down, so their opinion has worth for them. It's important. They shared with me their full-fledged thought and emotion. I can process it because I'm empowered that way, and I can make it not personal because my ego and self are friends, and Maria is a human being who's using her prefrontal cortex, which the only people who say it's not emotional are the same ones who don't know how to stand this. They can keep on talking. I'm going to, again, share with y'all, talking is easy. Feeling is easy for some of us. Others it's not. The Zen Master's laundry. He doesn't know how to do Zen. The ones who do, I just explained it to you. Dr. Daniel Siegel, he has a wheel of awareness. He helps a bunch of people to get here, and he's a scientist man, and he got invited to a conference for spirituality for a reason. Living a life of meaning and connection beyond the soul self. You need to be securely attached, be your full 1-year-old, 3-year-old, and then be your grown-up. Don't be a Cusco, be a Pacha, and you'll be able to think and feel in a way that's called very empowered. And so if it's a stranger, not a very big deal, but let's use that man. Am I not decent enough to be saluted? So this human being who has unhealthy self-worth was spotting a person, and even where they're uncomfortable, and pointing it out. Eventually we get to re-encounter each other, and they think they actively taught me a lesson in decency because I looked at them. I didn't salute them to maintain my consistent contingent communication of I chose not to be your friend for a reason. My body wasn't alerted to you. I have no interest. Furthermore, the very behavior shows me you are an unhealthy self-worth person who is in shame. Manipulation is what you use. You only manipulate somebody else, because I didn't feel ashamed of myself. I just felt like, oh shit, what do I do now? I can't say anything unnice. I'm going to have to say hello to you. I have to be the big person in the room because you just did this shit, and I'm confused after 3 years of... So, not confused to the extent of not knowing how to behave myself like a grown human being, but also how to consistently make sure they understand. I told you a long time ago because I don't have interest. This is what empowerment means, is you don't feel shame or guilt or upset or sad, but I can recognize, humanly speaking, that poor human being, whatever shit they've went through, they could heal it. Meantime, my way of not noticing them was noticed by them because they have unhealthy self-worth, but they're carrying around their low self-esteem, not getting it healed, and thinking that the way they're going to do, I don't know, justice for themselves is by being a Cusco. Which is why when they said, at least you looked at me, I'm thinking, okay, how old are you? Because that makes me think of my teenage friends personally. As a 44-year-old woman, not a 50-year-old and plus man who thinks he's the shit, by the way, because he thinks he's like cultured and successful poet and all these things, the way he presents himself. Really, I saw the cloak of you. So, again, progress, not perfection. The ones who are moving into our lovely 5D frequency, welcome aboard. Empowerment is really fun. And the ones who won't move here, they're going to be just as fun as can be. The world keeps rocking and rolling and going around and round. And so we are all here to contribute into tomorrow. Luckily, our scientists and our spirituality of our 5D collective come together and share how we can be supportive to each other so that we can build genuine relationships. And in fact, we're going to conclude with our lovely Russell Colts. Being terrified that a rupture means the end of a relationship sets you up from the very beginning to have a relationship that isn't genuine, that isn't real, that doesn't involve being able to just be yourself. Russell Colts, PhD. When you're able to be yourself and you find that others are pretending, you just learn how to handle facades. And we'll continue that one tomorrow. But yeah, it's thanks to my clown friend, I just leave it alone. And thanks to therapists, what I can tell you all is when people are not whole yet, they don't realize that their fear to be their self will sooner or later come up because they're not empowered as they're building a relationship. They're actually looking for approval from others. And so their attachment needs are insecure and they're seeking for something else called validation. So they have a way that they're running that relationship, which is why it's not genuine to a person who will pick up on that. But when you understand how many people don't take this stuff seriously, they just talk about it. Again, it's been since 2007 that I have been with Claire's enlightening, and I still see the 4D collective. I thought they wouldn't be here. And the 3D, and now I know they're going to stay. So let's have a good time today, and welcome again. The 5D collective is navigating these lovely frequencies like a champ, because we're all about love to love, and love to live, and love to laugh, and love to learn, and love to expand, and love all that is glittery and gold. No, you get the drift. Thanks for stopping by. Like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel grow. We'll be back with more. Have a good one.